Hello, guys. What is happening? And welcome to this live stream. So, on today's live stream, I've got with me the one and only Scott Walters. I've even dressed up a little bit because Scott is always dressed so smart. So, we're going to be talking real estate, 2008, all things in between as well. Check out Scott's channel. I've linked it in the description. Check out his channel. He's putting out real talk, really good information. He's the only realtor that I know of, anyway, that is actually calling a spade, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Scott in. Hello, Scott.
What's happening, Luke?
I know, it's great.
Luke,
Great
I'm
to
your
have
father.
you on here.
Luke, I'm your father. How many times have you heard that? Like somebody say, Luke, as a
I've
kid,
heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot. My dad was a big Star Wars fan, so.
Well, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you. Hopefully over here and being on with Luke today. We got some great things to talk about. It's always a pleasure. You've probably heard me say iron sharpens iron, and I really respect Luke a lot, and I just he's trending in the right direction. So I'm super honored to be part of your channel today.
Well, yeah, man, thank you for coming on because, I mean, you have a lot to contribute and your boots on the ground realtor. So this is real advice that people need to be taking in and hearing because I believe what you have to say is so, so powerful, especially right now with everything that's going on, like the high gas prices and everything like that. It's just nuts.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Before we get started, you said something earlier, I've never addressed this on my channel, and I really want to because I've seen.
Go ahead, yeah.
I've seen it appear in the comments below because you're like, Scott. I wore a jacket today because Scott always dresses so smart. And you see, you got to understand, folks. When I was trained as a real estate agent, I was trained from a high level guy, grinder. Man, I almost quit real estate. I mean, this guy was such a grinder. And but one of the things I learned early on, because I've seen it in my comments, people like, there's been times I wear a tie shirt open, California beachy vibe, but I typically always wear a tie. And the reason is I was told early on in my real estate career, always dress like you're going to a listing appointment. And so that's why I always wear a tie, because I want to, if I'm going to sell your house, you don't want me showing up in a t-shirt. I would imagine you want to see somebody shows up and looks like they're ready to sell a house.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Out there.
I think we're having some connection issues. You're cutting in and out.
Uh-oh. Yeah, man, that sucks because this isn't the first time I've had that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what. Are you I don't know really what to do. You seem to be good now. It's strange. Everything just went really sped up and then slowed right down. Like it was like you were speaking a million miles an hour or something. It was bizarre. It's like everything just came through the tube, but it seems to be working now. I don't know.
I don't know. I've had this happen recently. I'm wondering if it's something going on with my Wi-Fi connection. How am I doing now?
Yeah, you sound good now. So I don't know what the heck was going on there.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they're not trying to censor us. So anyways, inflation right now is just absolutely insane, and we all feel it. Like you and I both feel it. Everybody feels it from the top to the bottom. But I think really, like, we're getting to a point now, don't you think, where it's getting a little gnarly out there? People are really starting to fear inflation a lot more. You can feel it almost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know I am. I mean, I'm not spending the way I used to spend. The reality is the
Right.
stimulus program has ended, and so people are now being faced with reality and with runaway inflation. I think people are starting to, kind of take it back a notch and kind of maybe play it safe. I think we were drunk on
Yeah.
stimulus, so to speak, for a little while, and so now, it's painfully clear now that, like I've always said, we're starting to pay the piper and the dust is starting to settle and we're receiving blowback from the stimulus.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was all that mad rush, which created all those supply chain issues and everything like that. And now it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of funny because consumer spending is up, but that's just a measure of the total dollar value that people are spending, which makes sense with inflation, right? That consumer spending would be higher because people are paying higher prices for different things. So it's it's interesting because it's not necessarily a thing that businesses are actually doing any better. They could be selling less products. They've had to increase their prices, but they're not able to increase the price to the amount that they need to.
Yeah, pretty much. Totally.
But yeah, so I believe like where we are right now, we're nearly at the top of the market. If we're not at the top of the market, it seems like we've got that kind of mad rush. And I wonder how you feel it on your end, because obviously you're a realtor, you have sales meetings with other realtors, you see kind of what's going on the other side of the coin, which we don't really see.
Yeah. So we are, yeah, that's, it's a delicate dance for me as a licensed agent with one of the biggest brokerages in the world, servicing one of the biggest real estate websites in the world, handling all my internet leads for me. One of the ways I temperature check and heat map what exactly is going on with, can you hear me okay still?
Yeah, you're good
Okay,
now.
cool. So my call volume during the height of the buying euphoria here and the housing boom was head spinning, right? The phone is ringing off the hook. All kinds of people just coming through the website wanting to tour homes, and that's died off by at least 90%.
Right.
So that's a clear indicator, a micro shift, so to speak. Actually, it's not micro; it's huge. And then, like you said, I'm in a very euphoric Southern California market where the average sale price here in my area last month was $2 million. The average, so commissions here where I'm at are just massive. Some of the highest producing agents in the world here are getting very, very rich. Me as a level-headed realist, as much as I love and I benefit from this euphoria continuing in the housing market, I understand that logic would tell you anytime markets get this euphoric, it's you probably have to start talking about the potential of a crash.
Yeah.
Because anytime we've gotten ourselves into a real estate bubble, it doesn't matter what put us there. Anytime we've found ourselves in a real estate bubble, they've crashed. Well, what constitutes a real estate bubble? It's when you have huge run-ups in a short period of time at all-time highs.
Hmm.
Welcome to 2022. That's what we got.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been a crazy 2 years, hasn't it? Because like I feel like emotions has driven the whole thing, because it was like, to start with, it was everybody wanted that extra space for their home office and everything like that, and then that morphed into FOMO and a massive bubble that we have today. But it seems like, because it's housing and people are really emotional when it comes to housing, there's just so much FOMO out there. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I understand the dynamic. I always say, this comes down to the psychology of people, the psychology of sales, and that speaks to FOMO, right? So, like in the last housing bubble, I can speak from personal experience because I was younger then with a new family and young kids, and I placed all this pressure to everybody else was buying houses. And even though I owned other real estate investment property, I didn't live in it. So I went and bought a house because everybody else was. And I was of the age group that a lot of people now that I service are. They're younger, starting new families. You know, you go to work or your friends, you see them buying a new house. Now you feel like you need to do the same. And so people were just doing that. Plus, this it was what I also call herd mentality. You know, when they made
Yeah.
real estate agents essential workers, dropped interest rates, the floodgates opened. And even myself, for a split second, I was like, maybe I should start looking around. Maybe this money is really cheap.
Yeah.
You know? But then I had this moment of clarity. It's like, well, wait a minute. You know, can this really sustain itself? History would tell me it couldn't. Do you want to buy in the height of a real estate bubble? So what you just said is actually hit the nail on the head. Are we in fact at the top of a real estate bubble? Mm-hmm. That's the question. You know, that's my question to you. That's my question to our audience today. Are we in fact at the top of the real estate? Because it's not if we're in a bubble. If you don't admit there's a bubble right now, you believe in Santa Claus and the tooth. Yeah. We're in a bubble. Okay, just so we're clear on that. Now it becomes a question: are we at the top? Mm-hmm. And I have thoughts. I have very big thoughts around that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, two things that you normally see at the top of any market, not just real estate, stocks, whatever it is, when it's supply and demand oriented, is you see profit taking and dumb money entering. And I know for a fact that, judging by what's going on Twitter and what I've seen, both for housing in the US and housing in Canada, we've definitely got the dumb money entering right now. Which is sad, because the collateral damage there is a lot of first-time buyers who, you know, get FOMO, they jump on that, and then they ultimately end up victim like to the real estate bubble. But it's always that dumb money and profit taking. And I wonder, on your side, have you seen any, because you see big money, obviously, you know, you're talking millions of dollars in real estate deals there. And do you see any profit taking right now, or like even the whisperings of that starting to happen?
That's a great question. Of course you do. So like you said, most of the people entering in this market are in fact, for, you know, people, they're not the millionaires of the world necessarily. Now, there is a lot of people, of course, that are afraid of their money devaluing and maybe rolling it into a hard asset, and they can weather a storm. But let's say you're just trying to get a primary home, one property to live in, and what we're seeing is a lot of people that maybe didn't live through the last downturn buying into this bubble, not understanding that they're in fact in a bubble. They've drank the Kool-Aid. Many people, like, we have such smart people. We're so grateful for the people that watch our shows, because most people aren't having these hard talks or these conversations or even care. I know my kids, I have teenage adult kids, right? Mm-hmm. They care less. I put them to sleep when I talk about this stuff, because they don't care. They're not paying the bills. They've never, you know, they were too young to remember the last downturn. And while they respect what I do, and they actually want to follow me into the field, you know, the reality is they just don't understand this. And so most of the people, like you said, so yes, we got to look at what the heavy hitters are doing. What's Elon Musk and Warren Buffett, billionaires, doing right now? Warren Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful, fearful when others are greedy. We're seeing a lot of greed. I can tell you right now, I'm not showing houses to Warren Buffett or Elon Musk. They're not buying at the top of this bubble. They're selling. So we are seeing a lot of luxury properties come to market. People, listen, if you own luxury property, it's not your primary home. It's your second, third, fourth home. And so there's never been a better time to maybe dump your properties, like we've seen Elon Musk and Warren Buffett do. They're in, like, Warren Buffett's in $150 billion in cash. Like that, he's never held that much cash, ever. Mm-hmm. That's insane. So that tells me, hey, I'm no Warren Buffett or Elon Musk, but I certainly can take some pointers here and start to insulate myself. Because the reality is that, you know, what is the level of likelihood? What's the percentage of likelihood that a bubble sustains itself? 0. Over history, a bubble has never been able to sustain itself. So my advice is try to insulate yourself. I'm not recession proof, but I'm recession insulated, just like many others. So just understand there'll be buying opportunity, but you're going to have to be patient. If you drink the punch and jump out there, just know that there's a chance you might be buying at the height of a real estate bubble, and historically bubbles tend to pop.
Yeah. No, it's true. And people are talking about in the comments about inventory levels, and obviously this is quite an interesting topic, I think, because inventory, you can relate this to penny stocks in some markets, because you've essentially got, let's say not even 1%, let's say 5,000 people move out of a big city like Atlanta to a small market, and then that small market's got an inventory of like 500 or 600 homes, and they're all competing for those 500 or 600 homes. Like, the prices just go parabolic, and I think you see this huge volatility in prices when the inventory is so low. And is that the case or not the case? Because
it's a valid argument, when I see constantly too, and I appreciate it, because we don't want to discount it. But a lot of people, especially in the real estate profession, and it's hard for me because I see a lot of people in the real estate profession, grandstanding in this very euphoric market. And the reality is that a lot of people do want to put this on a supply and demand issue, and you can't hang your hat on a supply and demand issue in this one, because we've got the market in a stranglehold. It's stifled. It was through market manipulation, through, for lack of a better choice of words, through stimulus measures that pumped up all this markets. Now the stimulus has stopped, so we're seeing that top of that bubble. We're starting to flatline. Certain real estate is local, so some areas are going up much higher than others. Didn't have very big appreciation rates. So we have to understand and look at this with a really broad scope. And understand that you can't really, for me personally, I don't think it's smart to put this on, as long as it's a supply and demand issue. And while that will in fact hold this market up temporarily, eventually we're going to hit the tipping point. And we're just there. So, like I said, some markets more euphoric than others. Yes. You can't put it on a pure supply and demand issue, because right now I don't believe that that's where you need to hang your hat personally. Sure, it's going to weigh into it. It's going to keep prices propped up, but that will not last forever. Eventually, people are going to come to market. We have too many things right now going on in the economy, in the world, in political components now entering in the market. So, some things, we just can't sustain this level and keep the markets in a chokehold forever. Eventually it will break. Now it does become the question of when. That's really the $1 million question now, in my opinion, is, well, when will this happen? When will inventory start coming on? When will the markets, in fact, we're at a top, when's it going to start to crest? And so for me, as an active real estate agent who has access to multiple listing service, I'm seeing more properties come on, more properties stay on the market, more people not willing to buy properties sight unseen, more people not willing to waive inspections and contingencies and appraisals. These are all micro shifts that indicate the market is changing. So if you hang it purely on a supply and demand, you're missing the micro shifts. My job is to help you be forward thinking, not locked in and stuck on what's happening right now or yesterday. We got to get way ahead of this one in order to basically profit from it, or at least, not be taken down by it.
Yeah, no, totally. You're totally right there. And I think with supply and demand, obviously, I've said this before, and I think you've said this before as well on your channel, but when you're at the top of a market, like, people are less likely to sell their houses, at least at the very beginning. So
yeah, I mean, the supply and demand, it's a valid question, like I said, and it's playing a big role. The reality is this all comes back to the pandemic, people. We all know this, right? If it wasn't for the pandemic, me and Luke wouldn't even be talking today. We wouldn't even have a channel.
Yeah, that's true.
It all comes back to the pandemic. So when you lock people at home and tell them they how leave the house, how do you think that's going to affect the people coming to market? Of course. Of course, people are afraid to go out of their homes. They're certainly not going to have people come touring their homes. That's for sure. So, and then now people feel landlocked because they're like, wow, I have this real estate. It's worth all this money. I'd be an idiot to sell it. And if I sell, I'm just going to have to go rebuy at the top. So we're at, it's a very unique situation we're in. We've never seen this before. This is history playing out in front of us. But one of the things that, for me, and again, I know I'm not for everybody, and I'll look at everything. I don't want to be closed-minded. I love what I do, right? I benefit from this market continuing. Like, let it go. Let the continue. I love this. But I have more of a heart for people, because if I'm your real estate agent, I walk you into minimum amounts down, and I get you in a house right now at the top of the market, and then it goes sideways. And then I get a call from you like, hey, Scott, I'm losing the house. I need help. And I'm like, and then I feel responsible. Like, I just, now I gotta, I've sold you a house. I told you, don't worry. Real estate always goes up. It's blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be that guy. Now, most, if not all, I'm probably the only agent, like I said, coming on, benefiting from this euphoria, telling people, like, be careful, man. Just be careful. Understand the environment. Because then, like, I've risen from the ashes of 2008, which we're going to talk about here shortly. I rose from the ashes of 2008, and now I'm really fat and sassy. I'm doing great, but I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. I'm not going to act like this market can continue forever. I'm not going to base my cost of living on today's income, because today's income might change.
Yeah. Changing rapidly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're so right there. And 2008 is kind of, that's really something obviously we're going to talk about today. But what was it like at the top of 2008? Like, because here's the thing, which I find really hilarious, and people don't connect the dots on this. I have no idea why, but many real estate boards in both the US and Canada have come out, and a lot of people make this argument about supply, but they literally say the supply hasn't been this low since 2007. Well, what happened after 2007? It's just people still don't connect the dots. And one thing that was crazy today, I saw a realtor tweet out here in Calgary, was biggest amount of listings to market in a single day yesterday since 2008. Now, we don't know whether that's going to continue, but this is just, I don't know if you're aware of this, Scott, but I think it was Wednesday, the Bank of Canada increased interest rates 25 basis points. So we're at 0.5%. And that, to me, is a signal that the Fed is about to do the same, because the Bank of Canada is usually just one step ahead of the Fed. So the Fed's meeting's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're going to see a hike from that. And I wonder whether you're going to see similar things on the US, because I know we have a big audience on here, many people from the US as well as Canada.
Well, yeah, of course we're going to see this in the U.S. Absolutely, we are at a tipping point. We have to pay the piper now from the stimulus injections. The stimulus is now ending, so we've kicked the cans too far down the road, right? These tapering and interest rate hikes should have came a long time ago. In my opinion, is we should have done this immediately as we saw the skyrocketing appreciation rate. Whoa, we got to slow this down. They let it go. So whether it was on purpose or by accident, it doesn't really matter. We're going to get out of the problem and in the solution. And the reality is that, now we're either going to panic the financial markets with interest rate hikes and collapse them, or we're going to let runaway inflation collapse the global population, really. So it's like, pick your poison, and so now it's this delicate dance of just inching up rates to try to see if we can come back. And so, for me, like I said, I don't want to hang my hat on necessary supply and demand issue. That'd be too easy. I don't want to hang my hat on really anything right now that's an algorithm, data, tea leaf chart, or anything. I really think this is whatever potentially is the catalyst to trigger, the markets panicking. We might not even know what it is yet. It could be political, it could be interest rates, it could be inventory, it could be foreclosures, it could be evictions, it could be all of it combined. So I think there's so many things to temperature check. In 2008, like you said, so we're starting to see some inventory start to rhyme with what we did in the last bubble era, which is, it shouldn't shock anybody. And I've read in the comments below too, because I remember when I was buying in the last bubble, and people actually, I was a keyboard warrior after I bought, telling everybody how I got this great property and I love it. And, appreciation's doing this and this and that and that. And then there were some people like in the very few, but some were like, you're an idiot. You bought in the bubble. I'm like, no, I didn't. This is not a bubble. It's different. And then sure now I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm like, he's right. So there's just a lot of people that don't understand or want to admit, because we always want to justify our moves and validate them. So if you just bought, of course you're not going to like, sorry, I'm an idiot. I'm the one over here. I just bought. I'm an idiot. No one wants to be that guy or girl. So, you have to understand that, people want to defend their position. My job at the end of the day, like I said, in 2008, I bought a house, then the decline started. It started with just a correction. Before, you don't go straight from 0 to 100, 0 to recession overnight. It started and corrected slowly. I watched the appreciation rate of my property go down until eventually it ate up my equity, until eventually I was upside down. It took about a year. And then I was making a payment, even though I could make the payment at the time. I wasn't necessarily enjoying making a payment, because I saw other people. I knew now I could buy this house for hundreds of thousands of dollars less than what I paid for it. And that didn't feel good. I didn't sit well. I didn't sleep okay at night with that. And that's potentially what could happen to the people that bought in the height of this bubble, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality.
And what were people telling you about like taking out home equity and buying rental properties? Like, this was a big thing in 2008, wasn't it?
No, you're absolutely right. So when I bought in the last bubble, I owned other investment property that I still own today, millions of dollars worth of real estate. Now that real estate took a hit, but it was bought like in 01.
Right. Okay. So before.
And so I remember my agent at the time, because I wasn't an agent back in the last bubble. I was actually getting licensed, and then the crash happened, and I was like, put that on hold. And then I got licensed after the last bubble. But I remember my agent's like, you should refinance, do a cash out refi on your real estate you bought in 01, and you should buy as much real estate as possible right now. And if I had refied my 01 real estate and leveraged it and went and rolled it into real estate in the bubble, it would have been disastrous. I would have lost everything. So I let go and did a short sale, which is I put the home on the market, got offers, went to the bank. Hey, this is what the house is worth. Do you want to take this offer and let me go on a short sale? Otherwise, this thing's, I'm gonna leave you the keys under the mat. It's going under the mat. It's going into foreclosure. And they didn't want that. So it's funny, because why would I sell good real estate? And I even had somebody say, well, why don't you sell your 01 stuff so you can pay off your 07 purchase? I'm like, why would I sell good real estate to pay off bad real estate? That would be ridiculous. So the reality is I let go of that one. It was a short sale. It followed me around for a little while. But the reality is that, I was able to recover quite nicely from that. And then I became an agent, and then I started, everything changed once I became an agent.
Yeah. Yeah. Because obviously going through that process, and thanks for sharing that, but going through that process has got to be really tough psychologically, because obviously owning something that is worth less than you pay for it, and especially when you buy in like a euphoric market like right now, you really feel like I don't want to say stupid, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? You just don't feel good about what's happened, because everybody, it's sort of like panic on the way up, panic on the way down sort of thing for a lot of people.
No, absolutely, 100%. You know, you're right. I mean, of course, it didn't feel good, but do I regret the past? Absolutely not. I don't regret it because I've learned so much, because of it, and now I have a message, that I can help share with
Exactly.
people, and help people. Because at the end of the day, I mean, so many people, they're just so. It's such a cutthroat world out there, at some level. And so for me, I always say, our rewards in life are in direct proportion to our contribution. It's time to contribute. It's time to help people. I'm fine. Like I work in real estate now because I want to, not because I have to. I have great clients. I have a small client base that I really help. Occasionally, I'll help others. I do a lot of referral based stuff. I get to work in real estate at the level I enjoy working at. But at the end of the day, it's really about letting people understand, hey, listen, this is a real estate bubble. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's what we're in. Historically, real estate bubbles do, in fact, crash. So regardless, if you want, and I'm with you, I'd love this one to continue. I just believe that, you have to have the conversation of the risks that are currently present in this economy and in the real estate market. And there's a lot of risk. So even like we talked about before, plenty of areas of the country that maybe didn't, go through the roof in the real estate values, and they might not crash too hard if and when we have a crash. But the reality is that a recession or a depression will make its impact on every single home in America in some way. It's just the realities. And so you have to understand that. And so many people just won't. Many people won't. They're just going to continue to act like everything out here is normal, that this artificial economy through stimulus is normal. They don't understand, the basic economics of how we got here, and that being a potential issue. We're seeing what it's doing globally. We're already seeing this. We're seeing the birth pains of blowback, and not only on a national level, on a global level. I mean, the people are mentally not sound right now from the pandemic. And, myself included in the sense that that's why it's so important to always temperature check your thinking with others and have hard conversations, because a lot of people, especially people, in politics are, man, it's scary out there right now, in my opinion. People drunk with power.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And it's kind of, you also have to remember, like, I'm always asking the question, especially when I'm browsing YouTube, does this person have a financial interest in what they're peddling? And that's something that is easy to see your integrity so well, because you sell real estate, but essentially you're giving real talk on real estate, and I don't make money from YouTube either. I just do this as a hobby and to contribute back. But the thing is, it's just kind of crazy how many mortgage brokers, realtors, you see it all the time, so do I. They got these clickbaity titles saying, is it the next real estate crash? And then you click into the video and it's like, no, why is real estate going to continue going up? And it annoys me a lot, as it probably annoys you, because they're duping a lot of people into buying right now.
Well, you're right. I mean, the YouTube's a double-edged sword. I love YouTube. I didn't plan on being a YouTuber, of course. As an active salesman, as a longtime salesman, I knew I had to be on all social media platforms. You can search my name on any social media platform and I will pop up. So on YouTube, I happened to be watching a video, somebody giving real talk, and I was like, God, they are right, man. And so I turned on my camera and just started spitting facts, and the channel, blew up. And then I was like, wow, now what do I do with this? I got to, I owe it to my audience now to continue to paint. We got to look at both sides of the coin. And so I'm looking at potentially a very unpopular side of the coin in my industry. You think agents, you think I could walk into my brokerage right now and start, everybody, needs this to continue. Now, we've had talks in our meetings about, hey, just might want to, understand this might not last forever. And then it just gets blown over and people plow right through it and start talking rainbows and sunshine again. So you're right. One of the things that I do see, and I know our audience does too, is you'll see somebody with this thumbnail and headline for their YouTube video that's like the crash, buckle up, strap it, whatever. And then you start watching and it's some tired old realtor in Las Vegas telling you it's a supply and demand and based on these numbers. And well, right now we have 2 listings that are due. Who cares? You need this market to continue, because if it doesn't, you're in trouble because you went out and got under new payments based on this new income. So you're right. It is a little bit, people rely on clickbait with their videos, trying to get people in the video. But unfortunately for many real estate professionals, they're afraid their clients are going to see them. I tell all my clients when I talk to them, I have a hard conversation with all of them. Hey, just so you know, client, there's a good chance we're at the top of the real estate market right now, the bubble. It won't hurt you to wait. In my opinion, I'm happy to help you, whatever your decision is, but I certainly want to let you know my feelings around this. And people, 9 times out of 10, people agree that we're in a bubble. But like I said, once you make up your mind to buy, you're buying. It doesn't matter what I say or you say, Market Mania, Canada, Walters. Once you're buying, you're buying. It's very rare somebody decides to get on the sidelines. Now, I have read in my comment section many times below, people say, Scott, so thank you. I'm so glad I listened to you. I'm on the sidelines with my cash and my credit score, and I'm got my popcorn out watching this shit show unfold. And it's like insanity to me. So I'm like, yeah, get on the sidelines. Do it. What do you got to lose? You didn't buy it in the height of the bubble? Is that going to be a bad thing? I don't think so. What do you have to lose by maybe taking the lead of some of the heavy hitters that are on the sidelines? If you bought, I don't want to scare people because you just bought. You don't lose real estate when you buy at the wrong time. You lose real estate when you sell at the wrong time. So just understand, there's a good chance if you have to weather a storm, as long as you don't have to sell at the wrong time, you just might have to wait for a while. If you're on the fence and you think now's a great time to sell, it probably is. Everything's different. Every situation's different. That's why I always talk to people and get consulting on every project, because I want to know your I want to know what's going personally, professionally, in your investments to see if in fact it would benefit you to sell in this climate, or in fact just hang on and just stay in a holding pattern or not.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you really got to decide where you're at. And like we've talked about before on the other video about rent ranges and stuff, I think that's really important. Like, make sure you're at least buying a property that if all goes bad, you lose your jobs and stuff, you can rent it out and you've got that space. And that's not just the mortgage payment. You have to take into account property taxes and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's good to compare that way, like we've said before, because you obviously don't want your mortgage payment miles above your rent. And that is a lot of people right now are in that situation where their mortgage payment is 30% more than the market rent. And then it's just like, if something goes wrong and people don't think this way, it really surprises me, especially after 2020, because so many people were laid off. Like, unemployment rates went up massive everywhere. The US, Canada, UK, Europe, doesn't matter where you were, unemployment skyrocketed. People got let go, and that happened fast, really, really fast. But people don't really, I don't know. I just found it incredible that people then had the confidence to go out and spend like a lot of money on real estate with a lot of them anyway, a good proportion of them would have been laid off during 2020. It's kind of insane to me. You got to think about your risks. What happens if you lose one income?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and one of the things that I started preaching on my channel early on was check your property's rent range. I don't care if it's a rental or not. Check its rent range. In the last bubble, because had I done this in the last bubble, I would still have that property. The reason is this. Let's say you bought in last year in the height of the bubble, and your payment, or your payment's $2,000 a month. But the place would only rent for $1,300 a month. which is, so if there's a downturn, if something comes out of left field, if we have a Lehman moment, if we have a black swan event, if we just have a correction and we enter into a recessionary level, or let's say inflation shoes, like your cost of living is going up and you're living on credit cards now, eventually you got to make a decision. Like maybe I should, try to trim the fat and get light right now. And now I'm making a payment on this property. And so instead of saying, how much is my payment? I'd like to be at $2,000 a month. Say, hey, Scott, realtor agent, lender, whoever, well, it's going to be you or in the agent. What would this place rent for? Just out of curiosity, in case I ever, Lord forbid, or we have a downturn or something, and I got to turn it into a rental. So if at least you should always, check its rent range. It's an added level of security. If I had done that in my 2008 purchase, 2007, I would have just put a renter in there and let them make the payment. Well, I went and figured things out, which is ultimately what I do now anyway. I could care less where I live. Like, I don't need to look big. I live in, like I said, a very popular coastal. I'm all red right now because I just got off a tennis court. But the reality is that, I always say it's not as important to own where you live. It's just important to own. And somebody told me that early on, successful realtor, renting where they live. I'm like, well, you own all these properties. Why are you renting where you live? They're like, it's not important to own where you live. It's important to own. We love renting where we live. Someone else's problem. For me, I get it, because it's like, once you buy a house, guess what happens? It becomes all about the house. Every weekend you're at Home Depot, Lowe's. Okay, honey, it's going to get a doorknob and a new light fixture.
It adds up.
Every week, when you rent it, it's like, who cares? Like, I'm out wheeling and dealing. I'm out making moves. I could care less. I have real estate. If you need to scratch your real estate itch, scratch it that way. But, again, many people want to measure their insides by other people's outsides. If I had the house with the solar and the electric vehicle and the Tesla, I would be happy too. And then you finance that illusion of wealth, and now you're a debt slave for a long time. So you just want to be careful. Make sure you have healthy people have healthy relationships. Have a healthy relationship with your real estate.
Yes. Yeah, that is totally true. And that's a good thing to note, that have a healthy relationship. It's kind of insane to me when you look at what is going on in the market right now. And I still just can't, I want to get into an open house, because I find that it would be so cool just to see people's psychology. Like, is it all emotion right now that's driving them to purchase? Because I feel like we're on the edge of a knife right now in terms of inflation. People are starting to really panic over this. It was just evident with like stuff that's been trending recently, like gas prices, and gas prices. A lot of people, and I'm not saying I agree with this, say that gas prices were a major contributing factor to the downturn, because people have to buy gas, people have to buy groceries, and if fuel prices are going up, everything's going up in price. And I think, I wonder what your opinion is on that. Like, how are people finding it right now? Are they not even concerned about it? Does it ever come up in talk, or not really at all?
In terms of like cost of living, gas prices?
Yeah. Like, are people mentioning it when you're doing open houses or going to view properties with people?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Anybody that's on an open house right now doesn't care about gas prices. If they do, their FOMO of missing out on the house far outweighs what they just paid for gas.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have dropped out. Like, I'm getting less calls now because of what gas is doing and groceries are doing. Listen, man, people are going back to work now. They're being forced back to work. No more chilling at home in your pajamas working remotely. You're going back to the office. And guess what's happening in areas here in Southern California? You're stuck in your car for hours every day, my friend. Can you imagine that? Because I was one of those. I was a 9 to 5 for a long time. Stuck in my car, in traffic, going to and from. My house was like a transfer station. I didn't even know I had it. It was like, I barely spent any time there. I spent more time in my car. And so what happens to you now if you just got underneath all these payments? You're dragged back to work and you're paying $5 a gallon for gas. Your gas bill is $1,000 a month for a lot of these people. Any raise they got doesn't even make a dent in that. So runaway inflation could be our black swan event. It's hit a tipping point. The governments are starting to now try to raise rates to counteract inflation, but it's a razor's edge. It's pick your poison. Something's got to give at this point. And I just don't think people really understand, the severity of where we're at. Again, it's the pandemic. We tried to save ourselves from a recession, but we did quite the opposite and overstimulated the asset classes to a point now we've got them in a chokehold, a stranglehold. And so the can was kicked too far down the road for whatever reason, health reasons, who knows? But the reality is now we have to get out of the problem and in the solution will always be to just be a level-headed realist and understand, as good as it may feel to see your investment accounts maybe doing better than they did ever, you got to understand that these asset classes always cycle, period. And then second of all, when they exhibit the type of behavior that we've just received, that constitutes a bubble. And historically, bubbles tend to have blowback, i.e. pop. And so, to ignore that fact or try to push it on a supply and demand issue or wish it would last forever, I just don't think is smart. Now, I'm not saying you can't be of that position, but I'm saying understand somebody who's telling you these things, that this is something that you have to give a little weight. And in my opinion, it's like the scales of justice right now. It's starting to tip towards, like you said, people starting to side on the fact that this is not a safe time to go out and play in these markets. This is a safe time to maybe start to live a little smaller within my means. The euphoria from the stimulus is wearing off. And that's just, what's going on, whether you like it or not. I mean, welcome to the new world.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And you've talked about depressions and stuff, and obviously I recommend anybody go look at what happened in the Great Depression. But one thing that scares the hell out of me right now, and I tweeted this out earlier, is the fact that when you look at inflation, it's going parabolic, like we haven't seen since the 1940s, whether you want to believe it or not. They understate it massively now. We all know that. We're seeing massive price hikes and everything. But I want to play this scenario through, get your thoughts, because it certainly scares the hell out of me. Is imagine you get like a GFC 2.0, that could be from Russia, the China contagion, whatever it is, inflation even itself. How on earth could the central banks deal with that issue? They would not be able to do it, because imagine it's inflation, to your point. Well, they're not going to drop rates and then start quantitative easing, because that's just going to increase inflation. So I think we are like at a really rough position right now, where if something goes wrong bad, the only way they might be able to control things is actually go the opposite way. Like we could see the trend reverse, in which they actually go up with rates instead of go down like we're historically used to, because people seem to forget that this inflation, and there's a great website in the US, and it's specifically for the US consumer price inflation. And it basically takes the basket that they measure inflation by right now and then puts that into what it was in the 1980s, which was more realistic. And what you find out is inflation is running above 16%. Like it's at 1940s levels right now. And that, like, if we were measuring it with that 1980s basket, we would be at 1940s level, which is just insanity to me, because you look at what they had to do with rates after that. You know, how high is it going to take to get a positive real rate, which is truly the only way of cooling inflation? And you know, these politicians, central bankers, they don't give a damn about you or me. They don't care. So will they go up massively with the rates? It's entirely possible. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not a banker, that's for sure. I'm just, I'm a sales guy. But what I do know is that the banks aren't sitting around in their big offices right now talking about how this can last forever. I can promise you that. And they're preparing. Like now, right now, what I can tell you is I get emails every single day from companies working with the big heavy hitter banks, onboarding agents to train them to sell foreclosures.
Wow.
Folks, let me repeat that. Every single day, I get emails from companies working for the big banks needing to onboard agents to sell the forecasted amount of foreclosures. That's insider information. So for whatever it's worth, understand the banks aren't sitting around talking about how this euphoria can, and they feel like they'll always get bailed out anyway, I would imagine. So, you know, it's just it's insanity in terms of that goes. So I don't know what the banks are doing, but what I do know is that they're not they're at risk. I can tell you from personal experience. I went into the bank, talked to the vice president of a bank that I have a mortgage with a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
I was actually pulling cash out. I was turning one of my checks into cash, right? And I always feel weird when I go pull cash out of the bank. Actually, like, are you going to be able to do this? Like, I want to turn this into cash. Is that cool? So I started talking with the vice president because I do have a commercial mortgage with them. And I know, so they're like, yeah, we're not even doing any residential mortgages anymore, period. We're really? I go, he goes, yeah, no, it's like, we only do commercial stuff, no more residential. We learned our lesson from the last 2008. I was like, wow. Like, wow. And he's just like, between you and so yeah, the banks aren't sitting around thinking this can last forever. I can tell you that right now. And they are in fact going to, they're training agents right now. Listen, foreclosures happen. They've just always happened. We're in a bubble. So, I mean, don't be shocked if you see a foreclosure wave, people. I mean, it's a real and present danger. I hope you understand that.
Yeah, because they've been suppressed. They have been suppressed. They've been low. So it's going to come sooner or later. Like, it just has to.
It has to. I mean, when in history have we ever had a foreclosure ban? So, sorry, banks, can't foreclose on this. How this happened? Let's say I'm a landlord, which I am, and I have tenants, which I do. And let's say my tenants stop paying my rent, and I'm like, dude, I can't kick them out. Like, I can't evict them. Nope. They can legally stay. Well, what am I supposed to do? You can take mortgage forbearance, Scott. That's what we got for you. Oh, so I cannot make my mortgage payment? Yep. It'll just get tacked on the back of your loan. All right, I guess, but my tenant's not paying me rent, but I still got to pay this back mortgage. At some point, I got to pay the piper, but they don't. When in history has that ever happened? Never.
Yeah. That's true. Never, I don't think. Never.
Huh. Mind-boggling. It's insanity. So, this is the reality. I mean, this is the brave new world. We are very much digitally connected now in real time. And, we're living in history. They will have classes, books written about this time in history for ages. You are living in a very curious time right now. And so, anytime, like I said, when you lock people down, stimulate the markets, throw in these stimulus measures, and then kick the can so far down the road just to try to save off some blowback of a recession. But now we have ourselves in the potential biggest blowback we've ever seen in world history. In the 100-year depression cycle, if you track it over time, every 100 years approximately, we get a depression. Guess what, folks? That's, the math lines up. We're due for one, and everything needed to supply one is in fact there. So, understand that is my thing. And again, a lot of people, they just gloss over when you try to have these hard talks with them. They don't want to hear this. No. But my job is, I'm a very positive guy, right? I'm not like, some Debbie Downer. I love people. I love what I do. But at the same time, I'm always get out of the problem and in the solution. The first step of getting past a problem, admit there's a problem. And so as much as I love to rainbows and sunshine and pretend like this bubble somehow in the first time ever defies gravity, continues to defy gravity, and we don't have to pay the piper, and it's just euphoria forever in this, a utopia. I think that would be, Easter Bunny and Santa Claus type of mentality, personally.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong, really.
Yeah, it's hard to say at this point. I mean, I think, it's just kind of insane. But when you were back in 2008, were your friends what were your friends saying? Were they saying kind of similar things about, they were all talking about real estate, and they were in the euphoria, and everyone was buying rental properties, and people were worried about missing out, like, oh my God, I might not be able to buy ever?
Well, there was certainly I had another buddy who bought in the same, time frame as me, big luxury real estate. So when his property went upside down, his multi-million-dollar property, it was worth 50% of what he paid for it. And he was going toe to toe with the bank too, because at that time they were offering what was called mortgage forbearance, not forbearance. I'm sorry, scratch that. They were calling loan modifications. So let's say they try to sell me one as well. They're like, hey, Scott, how would you like a loan modification? How much do you need to reduce your payment by? So a lot of people in the last bubble were buying in the height. The smart people probably were out buying, investment, multi-unit, rental property, cash flowing income properties. There's a lot of people buying in the height. My friends, I had other people going through the same exact thing. It was a foreclosure crisis. In the last one, it was crisis. It was epidemic. There was foreclosure. There was every block just for sale, for sale, for sale, for sale. I mean, it was just staggering. You would see these housing developments, which we're building right now, right? We got a lot of, KB homes, a lot of these home builders building all these tracts or finding cheap land wherever they can. Well, you would see these tracts go from finished to partly finished to foundation to empty plots to dirt roads. They were just unfinished housing tracts because eventually the musical chairs stopped and somebody got caught without a seat. I mean, that's what it was. Insane. The last bubble, insanity. Like, it was head spinning. Jobs went away. Everything goes away.
Yeah, no, that's true. And a lot of jobs will go away because, there's a lot of realtors that don't have experience that have jumped in the game. Again, this happened during 2008 where realtor sign-ins went through the roof, and then those realtors haven't got a long history like you've got, and they haven't got any clients. And as soon as real estate bubble's done, they're done too.
I just got an email today with welcoming all the new agents that just came in, right?
Oh, man.
These poor agents. Because I also get emails every day from even longtime agents and new agents saying, hey, if anybody has an open house, I'm happy to hold it for you. I'm happy to, hold your open house. I'm available. And, that's not a good sign, friends. No. When you start and you're like, I need to get on some property. Like, I'll hold your open house, because what you're hoping is you can get in between a buyer or a seller or somebody is put yourself on property and try to get, get a client out of there or something. But you got a lot of agents. This is what happened in the last 2008 bubble, friends. And many of you watching have probably thought the same thing. Like, I want to be an agent. Like, that looks great. And that was what attracted me to real estate initially. I was like, I want to wear nice clothes and roll up in my Beamer and march around property like I own the place and like I'm the next best thing. And it looks very attractive. But you got to get in the trenches. You got to be willing to work. Like, I work for guys, like whether it's a mansion or a mobile home, I was dealing with it. He rode me hard and helped me up dry. It was very, very hard to break into real estate. So it's very rare, if you join a team or get with, I would say find the hottest agent in town and offer to work for him for free. Be his assistant for like a year. That is the best investment you can ever make. Have a year's worth of cash reserves to make it in. But many people in the last 2008 bubble came into the business because it was the land of milk and honey. It was like, you see it in your social media, you see these agents like, I want to congratulate my buyers for having their offer accepted, and we fought hard. Dude, it's like, this is not a normal real estate market. And so like people are operating on a FOMO, but a lot of new agents are coming in right now and there's not any work for them, is the bottom line. We talked about the supply and demand. There's no inventory. So they're coming in and they're not making money. And that's just what's going on out here.
That's kind of insane. And we see the same things up here as well. And that's something that you only really see truly in bubbles. Is the same thing happened in 2008. Like, a lot of countries were following each other, and we see the same thing today. Like, it was not just the United States, it was also the UK. They had a big blow up from 2008. Home prices nationally, I think, went down 35-40%. And it's just kind of crazy. One thing that I'm seeing is construction companies, because they can't get, basically, people don't have the cash to put down for a down payment. So basically what they're doing is, because they need 20% minimum to get started building, they figured, hey, the inventory is so low. And I think this happened during 2008 as well. You'll probably know it better. But basically they started to say, hey, the inventory is really low, like it was in 2006, 2007. And people haven't got the cash for the down payment. But hey, here's a great idea. Why don't we start building the homes? We'll finance them ourselves, and then we'll list them on the MLS, because then people don't need that 20% down payment. Like, it's anybody can bite on the end of that stick. And I think that's why, like you mentioned, there was so many partly completed things, because when everything fell down, it was just a lot of the builders went bankrupt because they didn't even have the cash. Like, they gone so far negative because they were financing their own builds.
Oh, I mean, exactly. I mean, look at Evergrande in China. It's exactly. I mean, these big companies have their necks so far out that one blip in the radar, they're done. And the reality is, friends, and just so you know, I should do a video on this soon. I've also saw in the comment section of people trying to, they don't like to hear about the last bubble because it's different this time. This time is different. I hear that a lot. But this bubble's different. Well, first of all, it is different, but we're still in a bubble. So it doesn't really matter how we got in it. Where you're in it, you're in a bubble. So welcome to that. And then the second thing is, in the last bubble, it was the lending. It was the lending industry that caused the last bubble. And while they were the huge catalyst in it, doing things like adjustable rate mortgages, you could lock in a low interest rate for a short period of time, forcing you into a refi. Then it has a balloon payment. I was in a sales meeting recently, and our lenders started introducing adjustable rate. We have solutions. If any of your agents are having problems getting your buyers qualified, we now have ARMs available. ARMs are adjustable rate mortgages. It's a polite way to say balloon payment mortgages. And so that's being now, because lenders applications are way down, right? Sales are down, inventory's up, sales down, mortgage applications down, interest rates rising. Well, what's the next thing to do? Start pushing arms, start pushing adjustable rate, teaser rate mortgages. And I just heard that uttered out of a recent meeting where now we're seeing that is what happened in 2008. The lending industry was pushing adjustable rate mortgages. And it's happening again, my friends. So another thing that heat map and temperature check for anybody that's interested, it's happening.
Yeah, you know, I actually saw Revert to Means, and shout out if he's in the comments there, but I saw him mentioning that too, that they're starting to peddle that, and that's really scraping the barrel, isn't it? It's like that dumb money that we talked about at the start, you know. It's scraping the barrel.
100%. And I really love, we have so many smart viewers. It was really great to see such good comments and viewers. And I mean, so many people, so awesome on your channel and mine in terms of in the comments. Thank you guys so much for always continuing to comment. And even the haters, you know, we love you guys because, you know, like we said, we know that, you know, this, you know, it's okay. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But like you said, is what did you say? I'm sorry, take me back.
Scraping the barrel with arms.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of creative lending going on right now with builders, like you said, they're offering incentives. Applications are down, so lenders are now really reaching, they're grasping at straws in terms to try to turn one more loan application in, right?
Yeah.
I'm having some of my lender buddies call me that I haven't heard from, you know, since the height of the buying before. You know, like, hey, Scott, how's it going? Just let me give you a call and say hi. How's everything going, man? I'm like, what, you're looking for? You're looking for work, right? You want me to bring you a buyer to qualify, right? So yeah, I mean, we're grasping at straws. The writing's on the wall. We're having these shifts. We've hit the top of a real estate bubble. We're seeing a lot of similarities to 2008. I'm not going to continue to say, hey, this is just like 2008, but I'm saying there's a lot of similarities. In my opinion, not in my opinion, actually, the facts are we're in a bigger real estate bubble this time. We hit all-time highs that exceed the last real estate bubble, and we did it faster than we did in the last real estate bubble. So that, in fact, would constitute a bigger real estate bubble. So if the last bubble crashed, you would think that a bigger bubble has the potential to not only do it too, but to provide an even bigger one than the last one. It makes sense, right? It was a level-headed realist, temperature checking, and heat mapping. Okay, so bigger bubble, bigger. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just basic, you know, mathematics. So now it becomes, you know, can we save it? Can the Fed or somehow we manipulate the markets and save this one and live in euphoria forever? That's the $1 million question. And
well, yeah.
And I'm sorry. And last but not least, because I know we're running out of time, the $1 million question becomes when. If there's a downturn, when will it happen? And so Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, tweeted recently, he believes that we are hitting a recession 2022, this year, spring or summer 2023 by the latest. I went on record when I've been on shows like yours, probably yours and others, and went on record saying, I believe we're a year out. And that was like last winter. So I believe by this winter, we will be talking about the real estate correction. And I believe mainstream media will be too. And then, my friend, we can see how contagion and herd mentality works again with the FOMO, but it's going to flip-flop from buyer herd mentality to potential seller herd mentality, and people now willing to sell and rushing for the exits because everybody else is. And that could landslide the market artificially again. And I really hope that doesn't happen, because that, my friend, would in fact be shocking, in my opinion, but a very realistic expectation at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's almost inevitable. When you got FOMO on the way up, you're going to have fear of losing everything on the way down. It's just, yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. So, but Scott, I don't want to keep you any longer here, because I know your time is valuable. So we'll crack this here, and I'm going to put this on Spotify as well, so people can listen to this as well. You can listen to this again on Spotify if you want, or you can share it. So I will be linking that below Scott's channel. Do not forget to check out Scott's channel. And Scott, we need to do this again sometime. I could talk to you forever, man.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Luke. We'll try to do this more, and the more we do it, I'm sure the better they will get. Thank you for all the viewers. Let's try to get some more comments. Again, without you guys, we don't have a channel. So thank you guys for continuing to support this very, very important message. It's time to help people and raise awareness that, there's a lot of people that could get hurt in this one. So without you guys, this doesn't happen. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate your time. Please go make it count today, and we will see you guys soon.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this. Again, the links are going to be in the description for Scott's channel. Make sure to check him out. I'll have this probably up tomorrow on a Spotify podcast. So if you missed this and you want to listen to it, that'll be there too. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to do this more often. Scott is fantastic, and I really enjoy speaking to him. So you guys have a great Friday. I will see you in the next stream. Bye-bye.